A lot of really, really big plans come from men who often get together. And one of the only times that those plans are interrupted is when a woman comes into the picture. Because a woman is also death for a man. A woman is a release. Orgasm is a release. In French, literally, orgasm is le petite mort, the little death. So for men to be with a woman is an opportunity for them to basically surrender into this bliss of no longer having to perform. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of guys have stayed in their depolarization. Because a man who has a failure to launch, we see tons of boys like this today. It's because it's much better to have maybe mommy or somebody take care of him to just, well, I mean, he doesn't feel good about this, but part of him embraces the death that is this distorted feminine energy that's on top of them. Women, in contrast, are death themselves, who bring forth life. And this is one of the reasons why you see women have more of an issue cultivating energy rather than controlling it. Women pursue men based on their energy. You see this a lot in relationships. A guy starts to have good stuff going for him, and a girl can sense that. It's amazing to me how good women are at sensing energy. They can tell really, really quickly whether a guy's low energy or whether he's high energy, and they're just drawn towards him. And so you have women who will meet a guy, and maybe this guy's had a couple good things going for him, his confidence is up, and she's like, I want him. And a guy who isn't used to controlling his energy, this is his death in a certain sense, because she will take the energy out of him. We talk about the term succubus. Succubus is an example of, it's an extreme example of feminine energy. But all women, to a certain extent, are succubi to a man. The flip side is that men want that. And so women will seek out guys who have energy. Women never go for guys. The whole thing about hypergamy, you can distill it down to women will never choose a lower energy guy than a higher energy guy. A guy who has less life force is not going to be chosen by a woman over a guy who has more life force. But the problem is that if a guy doesn't know how to control his energy, the woman can take all of it out of him, because the guy surrenders into that death. He does not want to continue to produce anything anymore. And then what happens? You have a couple of months of the honeymoon phase, having sex all the time, and then eventually she's just starts to feel, I'm not really that interested anymore. And the guy is like, well, what's going on? You know, I thought you were going to continue to do this, but she's kind of, what's going on an esoteric level is like, there's just not a lot of life force here. Not really so interested in doing this. And so a guy gets off path, and then she becomes more dissatisfied. Just realized I put this circle in the wrong part of the angle. And so yeah, he's deflated, and then she leaves usually. Or maybe she'll decide, okay, well, it's time, I'll have some kids with him. But these are the marriages that end in divorce 15, 20 years later. You have a lot of guys who are like, I don't understand, like women are terrible, women are dangerous because of all this, you know, they'll just leave you. It's like, well, you lost your life force. You stopped cultivating it. You blame the woman for that, but you wanted that. You wanted to lose all of that. This esoteric stuff is important to understand this energy, because a woman who can start to cultivate her own energy is no longer necessarily a burden on a man, so to speak. Which brings us to the integrated portion here. Because, and this is something that maybe some guys in the manosphere aren't going to like to hear, but in order to get from here to here, you need to dip your toes in the opposite energy. The issue is that people are stuck here. For a man to become a great man, a great leader, a leader who's aligned with truth and not ego, a leader who's filled with love, he has to experience death on a certain form. He has to come to terms with his energy. He has to know how to release it, which is expressing emotions to a certain extent. Women are very good at expressing emotions. At least they used to be. Because a lot of them have gotten stuck in their depolarization, they also start to have a little bit of a harder time with this. But men tend to have a really hard time. But a man who goes out and experiences the feminine, which is one of the reasons why a man going out in nature, which is something I talked about in my speech yesterday at the 21 convention, it's so important for a man to be out in nature because nature adds a sort of like a feminine chaotic test to them. And then they can test their limits, but also open up emotionally. Great example of a guy like this is Brad Pitt in Legends of the Fall. Very, very much in tune with his emotions. There's a wild element to him, though. But he can go back here and he can become he becomes a true leader. So if there's a problem, he can meet the problem on an emotional level and also become stronger than this guy who's actually very afraid. This guy's afraid of losing control. This guy is not. He welcomes whatever fate awaits him. And women love these guys. They love them. There's just not a lot of them. Because we have this sort of idea that we have to get stuck into one of these two things. But I'm talking to women right now. So what does the integrated feminine look like? And this is something that I found very, very difficult for women to accept.